The city of Rafah has been laid siege to after a violent attack took place in this border town. Now we're just 2 kilometers away from the Rafah crossing into the Gaza Strip, and here in Egypt the town is literally on lockdown. There are a number of checkpoints going into the border area. Over a dozen Egyptian border guards were killed when armed assailants shot their way into 2 military outposts, looting both of weapons, equipment, and armored vehicles. So this is one of the roads where the attack took place. The breaking of the fast around 6:30, 7 o'clock. Armed assailants came with weapons and attacked this police station. Now we're not allowed to film it or come near it, but there's a tank with army officers just patrolling it, prohibiting some of the residents here as well as journalists from coming close. As you can see, this location is actually not in the middle of the desert, but it's right in the middle of a suburban area where lots of homes are, lots of families, and lots of stores. So lots of people are saying the fact that an armed attack took place on a police station is proof that the Sinai is not being properly patrolled by the army nor the police, and that infiltrators can penetrate at any time. The latest violence along the Rafah border is igniting a wave of suspicion that the attack was politically motivated and well organized. Such suspicion has Sinai residents across the peninsula in open protest against the government's lack of security.
إني مش مسلم اللي عمل الحركة دي.
تفتكر مين اللي عمل كده؟
الله أعلم. اللي افتكر الأمن المصري، اللي افتكر الأمن المصري مش أنا.
فأكيد 90% المساعد الإسرائيلي له رينج في الموضوع ده.
Just days before the violence, Israel issued a warning to its citizens vacationing in Sinai to evacuate pending possible attacks throughout the peninsula. Others speculate Islamist militias were involved in the ambush. On Monday, civilians set up over a dozen roadblocks throughout the peninsula, bringing commerce in the southern tourist resort towns to a halt. As we drove toward Rafah, we too were detoured by a civilian roadblock. This is a town about 30 minutes away from the Rafah border, and as you can see, a number of residents here set up this roadblock. What they're doing is they're protesting the lack of security in this town. Some of them tell us it's impossible to go out at night because there's a number of crimes that take place, and although the police and army are present, they do not partake in protecting the citizens. This here is an open protest against that.
من يوم 25 يناير مش آمنين نحن في بيوتنا.
عمل عشوائي بتضرب الخف نقطع الطريق ونمشي.
مين يعمل عملة زي ديت؟ ما حزب الله نعم القوات المسلحة الشرطة عايزين أمن نحن هنا.
As we drove around, we were prohibited from filming the army and police. We just tried to shoot at the border, but we were turned away. We were told to go back into the city and receive the proper accreditation to shoot at that border. The roadblocks here have intensified, and it seems as though the Egyptian army as well as the police have literally laid siege to the town of Rafah. We're actually passing through a checkpoint right now, and these are sort of just layered throughout the entire city. This is a show of how severe the situation is. President Mohammed Morsi announced that the reaction to the violence would be swift. The military council issued a nighttime curfew in Rafah and indefinitely closed the border to Gaza, leaving many Palestinians stranded at the border barely 2 weeks after President Morsi announced the border's opening. Meanwhile, Gaza's ruling Hamas condemned the violence. The attacks have further strained the newly elected president's relations with both Israel and Gaza. The armed forces here, as well as the police, have literally been scouring the area for the militants who they said escaped. Some of them were killed by Israeli Apache helicopters on the Israeli Gaza side. Investigations are still pending, but as many residents here in Rafah wait for the final results of what happened, they say this kind of violence is very typical here in this area, where they say the police and the army have forsaken it as a result of the business of drug smuggling, weapon smuggling, and in some cases, human trafficking. Rafah residents blame the surge in crime on the Gaza tunnels, which have long served as a vital lifeline under Israel's blockade of Gaza.
قافل المعبر، قافل الأنفاق، تمام، والأنفاق دي هي بؤرة الفساد في شمال سيناء.
The tunnels which lead from Gaza into Egypt have been closed down by both Hamas as well as officials here on the Egyptian border. A number of the residents here will mourn the soldiers who were killed and will continue protests against what they say is an unstable system, even under the new president. Jahan Hafiz for The Real News at the Rafah border in Sinai, Egypt.